just called to say I love you. Bit of Stevie Wonder on the way over.
Bit of Stevie.
I love.
You've got old taste for a young man, James.
I know. I have a weird kind of taste in music. I'll listen to anything.
The classics.
I'll listen to it all, Dan.
Where can I put this so it's not? So, are we in the podcast, yeah?
Well, we can roll into
okay.
bit by bit.
We roll in bit by bit. Ladies and gents, apologies. I'm going to have my phone here because James took my notes away from me.
I did.
Because he wasn't prepared coming in.
I robbed Dan's laptops to do the audio. For anyone that wants to know the inner workings of a podcast, you need to record in GarageBand first off.
You can.
And I couldn't send, for whatever reason, my notes across to my iPhone because I needed to get an iPad. Look more professional. Like
you don't need an iPad.
Well, it would just look better. It would be, like that wouldn't have happened there. Small glitch in the system, Dan. But
if you were properly prepared, James, this wouldn't have happened at all.
Exactly. So maybe I need to apply the compound effect.
Maybe I need to apply the compound effect.
We're here. Dan, we're back once again.
We back, baby. What number?
I think this would be number 8.
Jesus Christ.
Out of, I think I'll be approaching about 36, 37 episodes.
I don't know if I'm flattered or insulted. Is this because I'm a great guest or just I'm like the go-to for Dan, when fuck there's no other guest?
There's no other person I'd rather have a conversation with than yourself.
Oh, well, I appreciate that.
There you go. Even if my missus is listening, that's still the case. She knows as well how much I love Mr. Prymal.
Mr. Prymal.
But no, we always have great conversations. I think the first one started out about how conversation is therapy. And then it branched into How to Win Friends and Influence People. Great book by Dale Carnegie. I'd love to revisit that book as well. And then it's been Jordan Peterson, Stoicism, alcohol, I think was the most recent one we had on 1-to-1, which was a big episode because I know obviously you're quite aware of your alcohol intake. And for me, that was kind of a big decision, cutting out alcohol.
You're still on
no alcohol. I'm about 8 months in.
I'm
8
months?
8 months. I think it's coming up to 8 months.
Come on.
But there's been a lot of temptation. Just since being with the missus, she's out, she's having a few drinks. I'll have a 0-0. Down in Galway there recently, I had a few 0-0s. They were gorgeous. And I felt so chilled out drinking them as well. I felt so relaxed. But
well, a lot of the drinking thing it's the social thing.
Yes,
it's the environment and the social thing. It's not necessarily the drink. So that's where the 0-0s can come in handy. But you want to be careful on them now. They're fucking full of calories.
They are full of calories. Yeah, they're all.
They give me a brutal headache. Was it Heineken 0-0 you're on?
No, it was some sort of Spanish beer, Astral or something, or.
I'll tell you what is really nice. Erdinger 0-0.
Erdinger?
Erdinger. Do you ever have an Erdinger?
German beer.
I think I'm pretty sure it's a German beer. Yeah. But the NA, the 0-0 version, that's lovely. And now 0-0 Guinness is tasty as well. Now you can be fucking 10 points deep in 0-0 Guinness or whatever, but like it is nice to have one. And again, the social thing, it's nice to have a.
Look, that's a big thing about drinking, isn't the social side of it?
Yeah.
But I think since making that decision, I've gained a lot of momentum, Dan. We're going to touch on momentum today.
Interesting use.
Yeah.
Not a random word.
Yeah, not at all. Not in this book because we're going to discuss, should I say, The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. What a read, Dan. What a listen as well. I listened to it first, then I bought it on the Kindle, and then I bought the book. And I was like, Dan, I bought you a book as well. I was like, Dan, I want to discuss this with you. So what's your take on the book?
Well, first of all, thank you for recommending the book because you mentioned it to me first. I took the audiobook and I listened to it in less than 24 hours. Listen to the entire book. It's short, yeah. I think that the audiobook maybe 6 or 7 hours, is it? Even less, maybe?
I think it's 4.5.
4.5?
Yeah.
I hammered it out over the course of a day. Like I couldn't stop listening to it, and you very kindly bought me the book as well. So appreciate the recommendation. You haven't actually given me a bad recommendation yet, so
there we go.
Fair play to you.
I don't plan on doing that either, Dan.
Yeah. And the question was, what was my impression, my overall impression of the compound effect? I think when you sent me the name initially, I had a little eye roll moment because like the compound effect is something everybody's probably aware of to some degree. You've probably heard the phrase, the compound effect, and everything compounds over time, and people have heard the money put away a penny, and that's actually in this book as well.
Yeah.
And then it's 2 penny, and then it's 4 pennies or whatever. But when I read the book, I was actually really pleasantly surprised about how the author Darren Hardy breaks it down into all of the kind of composite parts of where the compound effect can help you in your life. And one thing I'm big on lately is trying to understand the behaviors and the specific moving parts of all of these kind of principles and theories, because like as we all know, like we do personal development podcasts as opposed to a certain degree, and there's a lot of personal development information out there, but a lot of it is very abstract, or it's nice to hang on the wall as a quote, but I'm interested in like what are the behaviors that make up this particular thing or this particular theory or whatever it is. And for the compound effect, the way this book was broken down, why I really liked it is because it wasn't just about he wasn't saying the same thing over and over again in different ways, which a lot of these books can do, which can work sometimes. There was 6, I suppose, or 5 or 6 in this particular case, 6 very clear sections on what you can do to take advantage of the compound effect.
And I love how they feed into each other as well.
And they feed into each other nicely, yeah. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I love, we were coming up with the idea of how to break down the podcast, and, I initially had the idea of breaking it into 5 kind of key interests or parts of the book, and you were like, let's break it down chapter by chapter.
Chapter by chapter. That was just a lazy move by me because it's already broken into chapters for us.
It is, but I think it's actually a beautiful way to kind of feed into the beginning of the podcast, because it's just... it's probably the best way to break down the book is chapter by chapter, because like you said, they all fit into each other, and there's an overlay, and it all kind of makes sense. For me, it was like figuring out that element of momentum, which I think is chapter 4 or 5, is like, that is so key, but that comes down to all the correct choices you make, and then like choices is the second chapter. Anyway, we might as well start at the start then. Let's
go to the start.
Chapter 1 is all about the compound effect in action, and what I love about Darren Hardy, he is a guy that's really used this book. Like, he had a 6-figure business when he's 18 years old. When he was 27, he has a $50 million business, and he's a very successful man. He's got a great relationship. He talks about it in the book as well. He talks about, just being a better person. I love them people that can, maintain a great business or multiple businesses, help other people in the process, and also have a very strong relationship. And he's someone that's very conscious of other people as well, which I really admire. And he's also very enthusiastic, because he narrates this whole audiobook, and it's beautifully done.
It's very well done, yeah.
Beautifully done. What I loved about what he touched on was also a big thing, Dan, I'm big on this at the moment, and we discussed it together, is having a great, especially for a young man, is having a great role model. He touched on how his dad was a complete and utter disciplinarian, and disciplined him to great extents, but it all worked out so well. And he rewarded him along the way too. But one thing he mentioned at the beginning of the book, in the first chapter, is how he would say no to certain things. He never done drugs. I don't think he dabbled too much in alcohol either. He's very aware of things that can take you off your path. And I think that's just so important, is like, cut out all the bullshit. There's so much bullshit, especially when you're young as well. If you don't have that role model that's going to guide you on the right path, you'll go astray, and you'll do all these behaviors and bad behaviors that'll take you further away from achieving any goals in life. But obviously that wasn't the case for him, because at 18 years old he was making bank then. Absolute bank. There's another thing I loved, that was, I think, his tagline for one of his companies. I think you'll understand this as well, Dan, is what the tagline was anyway, is be the exception. What does that mean to you if someone's the exception, or is that even applicable, or would you say applies to your own life, to be the exception?
I'm pausing here because I actually want to think about this. I've never really thought about being the exception before. If I hear be the exception, I hear exceptional more than be the exception. There's something interesting I read lately, and again, I don't know exactly where I read. I consume too much content. I don't know exactly where this came from, but about having this drive in the business world. We're talking about business here, and this guy creating his own business and entrepreneurship and kind of carving your own path. This idea that you have to do something that's outside the norm to be successful, to be the exception. So I think sometimes when we hear be the exception, it's like I have to be the Messi or the Ronaldo, who are like the exceptions to the rule. The rule is people in general who succeed work really hard and have some degree of kind of talent or affinity or supportive environment or something like that. But then you get a Messi who's just the exception. He has the genetics and is a freak and works really hard and has the talent and the skill and has all of it. And he is like, for most of us, that level is unattainable, I believe anyway. But just below that is attainable for most of us, because if we can work really, really hard and apply ourselves, we can get to somewhere there. But you always get this outlier. So when I hear be the exception, I think a lot of us get caught up with thinking we have to be this thing that's completely unique and new. And I actually don't like that, because most of what's gotten me to where I am is not because there's anything exceptional about me or I've done anything that is the exception. It's trying to do the basic stuff really well. And most of the people I hear speak about it, and including the compound effect, actually says that too. So I think the language is interesting around it. Like, this whole book is about make simple choices, do them well and do them often.
Which is exceptional, because the majority of people don't do that.
Which is actually exceptional, but we conflate it by thinking, I have to be exceptional to do this thing.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, and actually, to be honest with you, most of the people I've met who I think are exceptional were not exceptional by default. They're exceptional because of the choices they made. So I know there's a really kind of roundabout way of saying something, but yeah, to be the exception, I think really understanding what that is and breaking it down into the behaviours that make you the exception. And nowadays, the exception, that line by Dana White always sticks in my head about like most people nowadays are just pussies, like is what he says. And if you can just work hard and commit yourself to something, you're going to run over most people. You will be the exception by doing the basics. So you don't have to be born a Messi or Ronaldo. I'm not saying that.
But you got to be consistent in your actions.
But you got to be consistent, because most people aren't. So you now are the exception if you're consistent. You now are the exception if you can avoid distraction. That's a big one today.
That's huge.
If you can avoid distraction today, you are the exception, because most of us are prone to being distracted because there's so much distraction.
Like you can, especially this day and age, you could honestly take over the world and just your own world if you don't get distracted. Your focus, I always say your attention, it's a currency, Dan. Spend it wisely. Spend it in the right way. Read great books like Compound Effect. Read great books. But in that first chapter anyway, he talks about the ripple effect, but just before that he talks about small, smart choices and consistency and time equal massive results. And that's what he's done with his health, with his relationships, with his businesses, is bit by bit. And that's kind of the core idea, I suppose, of the compound effect, is like every day you'll have a set of choices. If you make the right ones consistently, do it over and over again, and time, well, guess what? In 20 years, you'll have saved up all that money. Or in 20 years, you'll have a great body. Or in 20 years, you'll have a loving relationship. But this all comes down to your daily decisions. And that's why it's so key. Go on.
So no, you want to finish that point?
Go for it.
It's actually on this point of the exception, it's also what I like about him. Maybe this is what really kind of made me really enjoy the book and his narration of it, is he is somebody who has been extremely successful for a lot of his life, but he is able to explain why that is, and he doesn't say it's just down to because I'm just a mean motherfucker and I worked really hard. He said this is a specific set of circumstances. He talked about his environment and his dad and the people who surrounded him and all of those things. He said these are why, and these are not unique. Whereas I find listening to a lot of people and reading a lot of these kind of books, it's like that survivorship bias, that idea that they're telling you what you should do now, but that's what they do now when they are successful.
How did you get there?
And like a lot of them think that they're telling you how to get there. Man, you just got to get up and you got to work 20 hours and you got to grind. But that's not how you got there. That's maybe what they do now. It's not how they necessarily got there. So the people who are really good at explaining this stuff, like Darren, we're on first name terms now, they can explain it in a way that makes each action that they took very, very relatable and achievable to me. So like, he's an exceptional guy. I would describe him as an exceptional guy, but like the people I mentioned earlier on who I admire, you can clearly track how he got there. Now maybe I didn't have the environment he had growing up, or maybe I didn't have this, but that doesn't mean I can't achieve a level of success.
Do you think he applied the compound effect then?
Is this going to be a question you ask me every time we finish a chapter?
No, I'm only joking, but obviously he did, and I like what you said there. It kind of gives you a lot of empowerment to know that, or he got so much success in his life and is still experiencing success through applying the principles that he wrote about.
He's reflected and he said, okay, now I have the words to describe the things that I did to get to where I am.
In that first chapter, there's a great part that has in it. It's called the ripple effect of the three friends. And I love this.
It's called Larry and Brad.
I think you know. Do you know the story of
I have some of it on my notes here, but like
I'll fill in the blanks.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of blanks. He tells a lot of stories in the book to illustrate the points, and he tells this one story of three guys, Scott, Larry, and Brad. And do you know what? This is actually going to be a theme I'm going to bring through all of these chapters, because I find sometimes when we're talking about the compound effect, everyone gets focused on. Most people go to the money thing first. If I invest or save this amount of money over time, it's going to be this amount of money. That's traditionally where you think of the compound effect. And then when people are talking about habits, they're talking about, okay, well, if I lose this amount of weight in a day and this in a year and this in 10 years, whatever. But a lot of the time we forget the negative ramifications of the compound effect as well, because negative choices also compound.
Exactly.
And that's just as important a tool for you to have, because... And again, we're going to mention Chris Williamson a lot in this, but I can't remember who he spoke to, but they were talking about this idea that as well as having positive habits, a huge amount of our success in life is going to come from avoiding negativity, avoiding pitfalls and negative habits. So understanding that even if you don't have the most dialed in habits when it comes to your fitness and health, if you can learn how to avoid the traps and they don't compound, you're also going to be quite successful with that. So it doesn't mean I have to be up at 5 a.m. I have to do 100 push-ups every morning, whatever all those things are that people struggle to relate to. It's if I can avoid these negative things.
Avoid the bad choices.
Avoid the bad choices as well as making good choices. They're both powerful too.
Because as part of the book, he talks about the kind of hot and cold theory. What is guiding you towards maybe a goal that you have? Like every choice is either, you know that game you play when you're younger and there's something hidden in a room and someone's like, oh, hot, 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 or cold, cold, cold.
Yeah.
It's like every choice you make, are you becoming hotter in the pursuit of trying to find that goal or pursue that goal, or are you getting colder and moving further away? So that's kind of
look at it,
yeah, it's kind of the choice element. So like every choice you have, like you don't have to get up at 5, maybe it's 5:30, but you still get your workout in. And it's like you're just, and I love that part of momentum. When I listen to that we'll get to. I'm getting excited talking about it, but like the law of inertia, like things that stay still, they don't move. But like, if you're on your path and you're making the right choice time after time after time again, something's going to happen for you. That massive breakthrough, that massive result comes one day. And that's why he breaks it down very well with Scott, Larry, and
100%.
Scott, Larry, and
Brad. Now, my notes are light here for some reason. I only have Scott and Brad. I don't know what the fuck happened to Larry.
Larry fell off the wagon.
Did Larry fall off the wagon?
He might have.
You go Scott, Larry, and Brad.
Okay, I'll break it down. So 3 friends, they all take slightly different paths in life, and I think this is over the course of 27 months, which is about 2 years
and 3 months.
2 years and 3 months roughly. So we'll go Brad, right? He's friend A. Makes no real changes to his life, so he continues doing what he's always done. You know, gets up at the same time, doesn't really work out, eats healthy here and there, right? Then we got Scott. Scott's
the hero.
Scott's the hero. He's friend B, and he makes small positive changes to his day-to-day. So he's going to eat 125 fewer calories, right? He's going to read 10 pages of a book each and every day, and he's going to listen to some educational audiobooks. He might actually listen, Dan, to the compound effect.
Are you on commission for this book?
I might be. There's code at the end of it, James 10 for 10% off. And then, so we got Brad, we had Scott, we got Larry.
Good old Larry.
Loves a pint, Dan.
Larry loves the scoops.
He loves a few scoops. Maybe loves a few too many, but he's making small negative choices on a daily basis, right? He's eating more unhealthy food, likes a McDonald's here and there. He likes a spice bag as well. Kind of not stuff that's going to put you in good shape. Watches a bit more TV as well. And you know what, Dan? He likes beer, but not the 0-0 type. All right. So, and he's doing this over the course of 27 months, right? So, at first, first week or two, Dan, there's no noticeable differences. What is going to change within 2 weeks? But give it 27 months, which is 2.5 years, should I say. Friend B, which was
Scott.
You're
lost in your own notes now.
He's lost 30 pounds. He's more knowledgeable now, and he's a better relationship as well. And that's what I loved about this book as well. He touched on you taking care of yourself, your health has a massive impact on the energy you have for your partner as well. And I just love the way the theme in this book is his relationship with his wife, which I think is very key. But because he takes such good care of his health and his wealth, he can have a better relationship with his wife as well. So this all has a knock-on effect. You can clearly see how all your choices compound in many shapes and form. Friend C, so that was Larry. Now he's gained 30 pounds. He's more stressed out, he's less happy, and his relationships begin to fail. And then friend A, he just remained the same. So he didn't change at all. But the point being with this is after time is going to pass. And are you going to make the right choices today to have a better future in 2.5 years? Because 2.5 years isn't a great span of time at all. But if you think even for yourself, Dan, 2.5 years ago, were you making different choices to how you are now, or have things compounded in it?
Yeah, 100%. And I'd just like to jump in as well, because you're touching on a really important point that you mentioned, the ripple effect. Just to clarify for people, the depth of the compound effect, and again why this book is effective at not just saying make small changes now, big changes later on. The small changes now impact other areas of your life. So particularly for us as human beings, you make a change. For example, we talked about weight loss here. If you are on a health journey, most other aspects of your life are going to improve the healthier you get, because you're going to have more energy, you're going to have more motivation, you're going to have more drive, you're going to have better health markers,
more libido as well.
You're going to have more libido, like all the physical and physiological effects you're going to have, but that's going to impact relationships with partners, people, friends.
With your friends as well.
It's going to impact your business, it's going to impact your job, it's going to impact how you feel when you wake up in the morning. So that compounding, it's more than just this particular goal. It affects other things.
Everything.
And similarly with the negative things, the worse you feel about yourself, your your own story and narrative you tell yourself goes down, your own sense of self-worth, your own sense of self-respect. And the story that you're telling yourself is another part of this too, because if you have 27 months of evidence that you didn't stick to the thing you said you wanted to stick to, which in this particular case with these gents was weight loss, you're reinforcing that negative idea you have about yourself. So you're more likely to make the choices that confirm your own story about yourself. So like, yeah, well, I'm not a fit person, so what should it's no point if I go to the gym today. It's not going to make much of a difference. So like that spreads out, that ripples out into all elements of your life, and that's why I like it. So to answer your question then, am I making different or better choices now? Yeah, I'm specifically in a time of my life right now, I spoke to you about this earlier on, where I'm feeling the downstream effects of some of the decisions that I would have made 3-4 years ago. The decision to start my own business, the decision,
and they're all positive.
And all positive. Yeah, the majority of them are positive. Yeah. And some of them were like really conscious decisions. I am going to start this business, and even when it's difficult, I'm going to keep going. That's a conscious decision, because sometimes I have really difficult days, weeks, months where I'm like, fuck, this is so fucking hard. It's not going the way I want it to go. But I'm like, I made a decision. I'm going to keep going, and now I'm seeing
the benefits of it all.
Oh, that's actually like compounding. It's building momentum. It's spreading out. And a lot of the conversations I'm having now, I'm like, Jesus, this only happened because of this, and this only happened because of this. I couldn't see this.
It seems insignificant in the moment.
Yeah.
But if you can think, what are my actions and choices going to do for me in 5 years?
Exactly.
It's a brilliant way of looking at things.
100%. Yeah.
Because then you're like, okay, maybe I won't drink as much alcohol, or maybe I won't have that food that, it's all greasy appetizers.
This is something I've done for a long time, right? Because I'm 36. I'm still playing senior football. And people ask me regularly enough, I'm not a fucking superstar or anything like that, but people ask me regularly enough, right, how are you still able to play at that level, with that level of physicality at your age? And I was like, I don't really have an answer, because people are like, you must be so disciplined and all this. And I've said this sometimes before, it's not I don't have this wild driving discipline. I have no particular natural talents or affinity towards this. But I look back over the 25, it's nearly 30 years of playing football now, and I consistently made the same decisions. Almost never drank. My food is 80% good, 20% dog shit. Like, I like a fucking pizza and I like some biscuits and stuff like that, but 80% of what I do, the decisions I make, I'm like, yeah, won't have that today. Yeah, won't have that today. Usually 5 out of 7 days in a week, I'm like, I'm just going to eat relatively healthy. I'm not particularly strict about it. Don't really stay up late, get to bed early. Like, really, really small things.
You read? You listen to podcasts?
Read, yeah. Now, if I'm thinking specifically in the physical realm, those are the things that allow me to play right now. Whereas if I just made slightly different decisions, I'd start to hit 31, 32 and wouldn't be able to manage this. So now I'm like, people are asking, like, what do you do? I was like, I don't actually do anything specifically, but when I look back over the years, I'm like, oh, because I've done this for so long now, it's just, I'm just in that flow now with it all. And at some point I'll stop, but right now, all of those small decisions have allowed me to do what I'm doing now.
All them right choices have brought you to here today.
Exactly, yeah. So it hasn't led me to be a fucking Messi or Ronaldo or anything like that, but it's allowed me to continue doing the thing I want to do by making just regular small choices.
But I think even thinking of yourself as like, what's the highest form of Dan Campion? Like you don't compare yourself to Messi or Ronaldo, but like, how could he perform at his highest level? How could you reach peak performance in all areas of your life? That's by making just the correct decisions over and over again. Because there's also a version in another world, another realm of Dan Campion that didn't make them choices, that maybe had a few beers, that, didn't look after his diet just as well, maybe didn't invest as much time in his business. Like, all this shit just has a massive ripple effect. Yeah.
And there's another version of me that made better choices. So it's down to really, and that's true.
Is that like fine tuning things?
Not even fine tuning. Like I truly believe that. I'll speak for me, but I know this resonates with a lot of people. That like my potential is so much higher than where I'm operating at right now. But I'm also trying to think, okay, well, what's the balance? Do I really think I need to be the most optimized human being in the world? No, the idea of it is nice, but like, what would I sacrifice to? Because if I was to optimize for the business, something else is going to drop.
Yeah.
So like, where I am now, am I pretty happy with pretty much most of the things I'm doing? Yeah, pretty happy with pretty much most of the things. But there's probably areas I can optimize.
I know,
and make slightly better choices.
We spoke about this before, actually, in a walk in the park, Dan. Juggling. Like, you're always juggling. Yeah. You've got many different balls which are different areas of your life, and you're juggling them all at once. And I think you're juggling pretty well.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
For my own perspective,
most people that you meet are juggling pretty well.
Yeah. But there might be one or two choices you can make a bit better.
Yeah, I from speaking to most people, there's areas of their life they would like to be doing better in. Yeah. A lot of people talk about health and weight loss. Some people talk about money. Some people talk about purpose.
Yeah.
So like, with where I see this being really valuable is you can look at the thing that you particularly want And then you can decide, right, what are the small decisions that I can make in this realm right now to, in 4, 5, 6, 7 years time, look back and say, God, okay, I'm happy I made those decisions because now I'm a little bit more optimized for my health, or I've lost that little bit of weight, or I'm a, is Larry or Scott the good guy? Scott, I'm a Scott.
Yeah.
Because I made some small positive choices. 27 months is not that long.
It's not.
Although it seems like a million miles away. Jamesy, this is the call. Sorry, this is the call.
We got to cut it.
We got to cut it. We'll keep rolling on everything. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Dan is getting a new coffee filter, so this is very important.
I'll be down to you now in 2 seconds.
We're keeping this in, Dan.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. It's a Brita water filter, so
brilliant.
I'll be back in a
Brilliant.
second.
Jeez, that was rapid, Dan.
You don't fuck around.
El rapido.
We got it.
We're back.
Okay. We better move to fucking chapter 2. We'll never get this done.
We will. Just the key takeaways from chapter 1 is consistency is key. Success comes from repeating small, smart choices consistently over time. Progress may be invisible at first, but compounding will lead to exceptional growth. And bad habits also compound. Remember that. We did touch on it already.
Beautiful.
But small bad decisions accumulate and lead to negative results over time. And lastly, the earlier you start, the better. Just get going with it, whatever it is, whether it's your health, wealth, or fitness, or business. So chapter 2 then. Let's move on. Choices. Can
I add to that little list?
Go for it, yeah.
It's never too late.
Yeah.
Wherever you are right now, if you're 16 or 60, it's not too late. I just think that's really important to say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's so true. Whatever, yeah. It's never too late.
Literally, never.
Gary Vee always says that as well.
Yeah.
But we are what we repeatedly do, as Aristotle once said, Dan, and that comes down to each and every choice that we make. And taking 100% responsibility. That was kind of the thing with the choices in this chapter, is everything in your life is 100% your responsibility. Tell me, Dan, what's your take on that?
This is interesting, right? Because I was due to do a podcast this week with somebody. I won't say who it is just yet, because I want to make sure we get it across the line first.
Yeah.
And I was going to make it specifically on choice, because I was called out a couple of times over the last year on this idea of choice. So I've refined my answer around choice a little bit. So I would agree with you that if we can, we should look to take responsibility over all of our choices. That's slightly different to how I used to say that before, right? Because I think for most of us listening to this podcast, and myself and yourself and the people that we would know, for most of us, there are a lot of choices that we have in a day. But there's a lot of people who don't have the same choices. And I'm not just talking about people in war-torn countries or poverty and stuff like that. We are very, very lucky in our lives to have quite a lot of autonomy and quite a lot of choice. And I think if we have that, we do have a responsibility. So I agree with you, to make better choices. And when I say better choices, I don't again mean to be the ultimate human being. I mean, I think we have a responsibility to decide what it is we want in life and then make choices that bring us closer to that thing. That's our responsibility, rather than hoping someone else is going to make it for us, because I don't think they will, to be honest with you. Now, I'm speaking as someone who's been very lucky to have a great family, great support system. People have really helped me out. But I do believe that we all, most of us, have the ability to make choices, and a lot of us spend time not making those choices because it's hard, which I completely understand. But I was kind of, there was a lot of pushback. It wasn't negative, it was really, really productive. A lot of people don't have the same support system, so they don't have the ability. Like, for example, I could only start this business because I had the support of my partner and my parents. So there was some part of me that knew, even if this goes absolutely tits up, I'll be okay. I knew that because I have support from my family and my friends. A lot of people don't have that. So there's a choice that, like, everyone's like, oh, what a great choice to make. It's a really brave choice. Not really as brave as you might think, because I have that
You're like
support.
in a fortunate position.
But with that context aside, I do agree. The choice is such a powerful thing. And when it comes down to a lot of the things that I would speak to people about where we struggle, like health and wellness and money and all that kind of stuff, there are probably better choices a lot of us could be making.
That we could make.
And it's really powerful when you make those choices.
Yeah. There's a great quote in that chapter. He says, "We are all self-made men and women, but only the successful take credit for it." So we're all self-made. Men and women, but only the successful. Because if you're a failure, you blame someone else. It's always this victimhood mentality. You know, they done me dirty, or this happened, or the reason why I'm not as successful is because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
But it's successful people, they take all the credit. We're all self-made men and women, but only the successful take credit for it. I love that.
That's an interesting quote.
And that actually section of the book is something I absolutely loved. It the sub title of it is Owning 100%. I don't know if you remember this from the audio, Dan, but he talked about going to, I think he was 18 and he went to some self-help seminar, and the lecturer asks out loud to the audience, you know, whose responsibility in a relationship, or what percentage of the relationship is your responsibility when you're in a relationship. And he put up his hand, he said 50-50. Someone else in the crowd said 51-90. It was 51-49. And the lecturer turns around and goes, no, it's 100% your responsibility for the relationship to work. It should all come back on you. If you wanted to make it work, you will find a way, but it's your responsibility. It's not for your partner to do such and such a thing. It's for you to guide that relationship in a way where you see fit. And he's the perfect example of this. He gets married to a Portuguese wife, and even how he goes and asks her dad and her family about marrying her and what he does for her. He actually touches on a journal that he wrote for over the course of a year. Every day he would write down something about his partner that he was grateful to have in his life. What she would do, whether it's how she treated the dog, to how she cooked meals, to how clean the house was, or how she done her makeup or got dressed. He's like, every day he wrote down. He had a choice, and he wrote in his journal everything that he appreciated about her. And then he gave it to her, I think on Thanksgiving or something it was. And she said it was the greatest present that she ever got. And he'd bought her a BMW that year. So just like these little choices, like I think when you've got them going right for yourself, you then can ripple it out once again, and you can expand that out to other areas of your life as well, which is so beautiful. But just owning 100% is how it happens. Own 100% of your choices, and you can guide your life in a better path.
Yeah. Yeah, there's an interesting, again, to bring the negativity side of things in as well. Every choice that you're faced with in a day, I think about this sometimes, like how many choices do I have in a day? Starting with my eyes open. Yeah. Choice number one, am I going to close my eyes again, or am I going to get out of bed here? Am I going to press snooze in the alarm? Am I going to go downstairs straight away? Am I going to scroll on my phone? And what am I going to eat for my breakfast? Like, it's constant choice. And that can be hard. You can get decision fatigue quite easily. But to look at the empowering side of that, every one of those things I've just described there, which is probably the average person's morning routine, is something that you have control over. And that's really empowering. It's also quite scary.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, it's quite empowering because I can actually decide all these things. It's not to say that they're easy decisions, because a lot of the time they're not, and there's habit involved and all that kind of stuff, but we can acknowledge a lot of those things are choices. So a lot of the things that happen in your day that you think you might feel a bit powerless over, especially if you're not feeling good. I find this sometimes, if you're not feeling good or you're struggling at the moment, you're going through a difficult patch, it can feel like you've no choice. This is just life. This is what it is. But when you actually sit and break it down, pretty much every minute of the day you're making choices.
We're always making choices.
Stand up or sit down. Will I go left? Will I go right? Will I smile? Will I frown? I find this hit me a lot when I was thinking about this particular chapter, is a lot of the unconscious choices that we make are still choices. We call it habit or routine or whatever, but they're still choices. They're just now unconscious. They've become like rote. So like eating the bad food, or I found myself in the last few weeks just looking at my evening eating habits.
Yeah.
And I told myself, we're in a particular phase in training and stuff like that, I want to drop a little bit of body fat, just be a little bit leaner for playing football and stuff like that. Conscious decision I made. And then I found myself just unconsciously having like just a little biscuit with a glass of milk or something, watching TV in the evening. And I was like, that's just unconscious. It's not and it doesn't align with what I want at this particular time. Nothing wrong with having a biscuit and a thing of milk, but I was like, I'm just doing it automatically.
Yeah.
That's potentially a choice for me. And so rather than give myself a hard time for I shouldn't be, I'm doing it again, I'm like, I can make that choice. So like the last 2 weeks I've been like feeling the little urge and then deciding, no, I have a choice here. What's my choice? This is my choice. And I just feel amazing about it then. I'm like, okay, I made that choice. I'm not saying it's that easy. I don't particularly struggle with food and stuff like that. So for me, it is a little bit easier. But yeah, all of those hundreds, if not thousands of choices we make in a day, if we can identify just a few of them and take them back, as you said, just take control of them again, that's really empowering.
It is. Empowering is the word. I was just going to say that, and I like what you said there at the beginning of the day. It's like the two elements of the day we control is when we get up in the morning, when we go to bed. And like you said,
not control a bit in the beginning?
It's so many variables, Dan. So many things happen in the middle of the day, like you know yourself.
But this is kind of what I'm saying as well. Like I talked to you about my week. It's all a bit mad, and sometimes I catch myself using that language, like, "Oh, all this stuff happened, and I couldn't get anything done." Like, no. Every time something happened, I had a choice to make. Someone walks in, and I do A or I do B. My boss says something to me, and I react with A or react with B. I missed a bus, and I fucking rage, or I get the next bus. Like, they're all decisions. Some of them are really hard. Some of them are not immediately obvious, but I genuinely do believe, like, if fucking what's his name can be in a prison camp, he wrote the book? Oh my God,
Viktor Frankl.
Viktor Frankl. If Viktor Frankl in a prison camp can have that outlook on life where he still has a degree of he's literally in a prison camp where his rights are taken away, then me in my cushy life in Dublin, I definitely can look at the middle of my day and go, I have way more choice than I think I have. So I need to shift my mindset around this.
Yeah, and I like the idea of choices like red and green lights as well, because like you said, you get up in the morning, you don't snooze the alarm, that's a green light. You go downstairs, start your morning routine, it's a green light. Red light might be snooze the alarm, sleep in a bit more, get up, grab the phone. That's a red light. These are red. Like, we just know these are not good things to do, but we know we're in a sense of routine, in a sense of flow, building that momentum in our day. We're gonna feel better, but we got to be. There is some level of awareness to it, Dan, because like you touched on there, things almost happen automatic if you're like asleep at the wheel. Your habits are guiding you. You're not guiding your habits. Yeah. So just become aware. Awareness is very, very important.
There's another quote I like around choice from Nelson Mandela, actually. May your choices reflect your hopes and not your fears. We talked about this before as well.
I like that. That's nice.
I have found in my life, I've tried to identify a lot of the choices that I'm making from fear and not from hope or love or positivity. For example, let me use a business example, right? In my business, am I making decisions to work with a certain type of person or take a certain type of client on board or conduct my business a certain way because I have a fear around money? I'll take anybody, I'll do anything, I'll say yes to everything because I'm afraid that I won't have enough money, or I'm afraid that people will think something of me if my business is in a certain size. That's a choice that I'm making out of fear. It's still a choice, but now I'm making that choice out of fear, and that's going to drive me down a certain direction in my life, and I'm going to get to a point where I'm not happy with the choices I've made because they're aligned with fear, and fear breeds fear. That's I'm going to end up. Whereas what I'm trying to do now is identify those and go, okay, yeah, I've made decisions out of fear before. How do I turn that around and make that decision in a positive way? So let's forget the money worries for a second. Like, what do I want my life to look like? I want it to look like this. I want to work with this type of person. Right, okay. So the next time I have an opportunity to work with somebody, I'm going to say no because that's a positive move for me, because I know I would only say yes out of fear. So like that's another choice.
I love that.
Another kind of paradigm around choice, where it's like, where is it coming from? Why are you making these choices? And then it kind of removes the shame and guilt around, again, let's use a common one here, because people always talk about weight loss and fitness and health. It's where choice always comes in. Rather than beat yourself up about eating the pack of biscuits or having the bit of weight on or whatever it might be, just have a look at yourself and say, why am I making those decisions? Where is it coming from inside me? Go a little bit deeper, because you have the power to make the choice. Like, the people who are really fucking hard ass on this say, put the fork down. You're putting it in your mouth. That's what they say. It's reductionist a little bit. It's true, but it is a bit reductionist. But if we can understand, like, why, what is it that's driving you to do it? Is it something to do with fear? Is it insecurity? Is it do you not feel good? Something's driving that decision. What is it? And it could be habit, and it could be distraction, all that kind of stuff. But if we can just start to reframe these little things for ourselves, I personally found that really, really helpful for me.
Yeah. Choices are key.
Choices are key.
And like he says in the book, nobody intends to be obese, go through bankruptcy, or get a divorce, but often, if not always, those consequences are the result of a series of small, poor choices.
Where have they come from?
Yeah, I love it. I think we've covered it pretty well. Limit excuses. Yeah. Was there any? I suppose a weight gain one is always the one that gets everyone.
Yeah, I'm only bringing it up because a lot of people will be very familiar with that one, and even people who aren't really struggling with their weight, like it's one thing that's really prevalent nowadays. We have overabundance. Everybody's access to food. It's something we all do every day, so it's relatable to most people. I think it's a good example to talk about, but you can apply it to everything. Yeah, apply it to relationships, apply it to sport, apply it to business, whatever you want.
Yeah. And there's a quote in there as well I love from Jim Rohn. He said, "What is simple to do is also simple not to do." You know, we all know what we should do.
Simple but not easy sometimes.
Simple but not easy. Yeah. I suppose you covered it pretty well then. Every choice matters. Take full responsibility. Track your behaviours and be aware of
the tracking thing. Do you want to talk about that for like 5 seconds? I know we need to move to the next chapter, but that's one I struggle with. Tracking things. And a lot of people don't like tracking. Yeah. I'd rather be a bit more intuitive, but I realise that's only because I don't like tracking things, and that can turn into a problem sometimes.
Yeah, he's big on tracking.
He's huge on tracking, and most of these successful people are, because what doesn't get measured doesn't get managed. That's a kind of quite a common phrase in most of these spaces. I won't go back to the weight loss thing. That's an obvious one with calories and stuff like that. Money. He talks
saving money. Yeah,
saving money, financial journal stuff like that. A lot of us are really uncomfortable with that, me included, because it's almost as if I have to write this stuff down, it's proof to me how bad I'm doing or something, or it's going to show up something about it. That's a fear-based decision. Yeah. Whereas being able to track your finances, whether it's personal or business or whatever it might be, it just puts it out in black and white and removes all the stigma from it. That's something I've really struggled with over the years. Now, I know you're quite good at like journaling and stuff like that. That's a form of tracking.
Yeah.
Tracking your thoughts, tracking what's coming through. But I think that I know from personal experience, it's something that can be very, very difficult, but has huge positive outcomes. So I think he pushes this quite a lot in the book. I remember listening to going, guys, he's really going on the tracking part. Track everything.
Track everything.
Yeah, I think for me,
winners are trackers.
They know what's going on. You've got good visibility. You've got good awareness. So I think if something is important, a little bit more awareness around it is good. And tracking is just a good tool. Yeah. Again, I'm saying this is someone who doesn't do it a lot in a lot of areas of my life, but I'm looking at practices to kind of make it better. But he hammers that point.
He hammers it down,
and it's a great point.
And I think he done for one of his employees. I think she was quitting smoking, and then he wanted her to track the number of days she'd stopped, and he had a big kind of calendar at the front of her desk, and she'd mark an X. When you can see something visibly, I think it's very important.
Yeah.
I was saying to you before we got going, I'm looking to do 30 days of content. It's not a big thing at all, Dan. But if I'm tracking it now, it's something that I'm going to achieve. But just having something visible that I can see it and look at every day and just put an X through it and like, okay, 1, 2, 3, and then all the way up to 30.
The funny thing about those as well is the first day or two it's so hard because you're looking at this big empty page. But when you're a week in, you're looking back at 7 X's, you're like, that's a real
a bit of fuel behind that as well.
It gives you a bit of momentum too.
Momentum as well, that's the word. And then just to finish up, it's hundreds, thousands, or millions of little things that separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. Oof, it's very good. Right, we'll move on, Dan, because I don't want to dwell too long. Chapter 3 is habits.
Habits, here we go.
Habits. So all the choices obviously lead to many habits. But let me see, where will we start then? Success requires personal
habits
growth.
Is one of those things like everyone's familiar with James Clear, BJ Fogg, like Atomic Habits was James Clear. Everybody knows what a habit is. It's common vernacular nowadays to talk about the power of habit, and like habits are the habits dictate success, good or bad. Good, as we said earlier on, good habits dictate positive outcomes, bad habits can dictate negative outcomes, and avoiding the bad habits are as important. I have a very, very simple approach to this because it almost annoys me sometimes, the habit thing, because I'm like, I know it, but it's so hard
to grasp.
Not to grasp, to do.
Okay.
Changing habits is a really, really difficult thing to do because habits are usually associated with an emotion. There's a reason, like I said earlier on, there's a reason you started doing this thing. Yeah. And in most cases, it's avoiding a negative emotion. I eat because it helps me feel better when I don't feel good. I scroll on social media because I'm anxious. Or I drink because it helps me forget my fears and stuff like that. Like usually it's fear and pain avoidance. So because our habits are linked with those emotions, it's not as simple as just changing our habits. And I'm really strong on this now as well. I have had some good conversations with people from different walks of life as well who have really, really different upbringings from me. And it really helped me understand the power of environment and trauma and emotion in the habits and the people that we become. And essentially we are our behaviours, like, so, and our behaviours come from our habits. So yeah, this is really important, but not for a lot of people read Atomic Habits and are never able to do anything about it. So what I'm interested in is, okay, how do we actually implement change, and what does like habit change look like? And there's a couple of simple things I like with this, which didn't actually come from the book, but were kind of reinforced in the book. And it's, if I'm trying to change a habit, first of all, I have to become aware of it and understand why I'm doing it. That's step one.
I think that was the most important thing you said. Why are you doing what you do?
Yeah.
Like, what is the habit? What's it doing? Is it bringing you towards a goal? Like, why are you doing it? Because if you don't have your why, then that's the foundation of everything. That's the foundation of why you do the habit.
100%.
What is your why?
Yeah.
That's Viktor Frankl.
And a lot of it comes back, and I know James Clear talks about this in Atomic Habits as well. Most people take away like the strategies that I can use, but what I really took from reading his book particularly was the deeper version of the why. And in order for us to get to the why, we have to be able to sit with ourselves and develop some sort of awareness, because most of these things are unconscious. Our habits are they're routine now. We don't even think about the habits anymore. That's why we call them a habit. Like, it's almost automatic.
Same way as brushing your teeth in the morning.
Same way. So we have to be able to sit with ourselves, and in order to do that, we have to have some sort of practice. So like even before we can change our habits, what's our practice for figuring out what our habits are? Are we tracking something? Because like tracking is an interesting one. I remember we used to track things in the clinic, like get people to track, say for example, their food. Yeah. And people would say one thing and then track it and then be like blown away by how far off what they said initially and what they tracked was, because a lot of it was unconscious. A lot of it was things that were just kind of grazing on food at certain times, or using certain types of butters and sauces and oils and all this kind of stuff, and they were completely unconscious of it, and it was a habit. And they were like, it's incredible. But just getting it down on a page
It gives you an overview of it.
It brought it into the light for them.
Yeah.
I don't want to roll out the Carl Jung quote in every single podcast I do, but until you make the unconscious conscious, it will control your life, and that's essentially your habits.
And that is.
It will control your life, yeah. So for me, a big one is not necessarily what are the hacks for habits. It's more about understanding yourself. And then for me, a little strategy I use, because I like to give some practical stuff as well, is I personally like to try and keep an eye on things that are building up for more. If I do something more than 2 days in a row, I know it's going to become a pattern for me. Not necessarily a habit yet, but if I find myself maybe snacking, or if I'm using my phone a lot, or anything in the kind of the negative realm.
If you haven't been to the gym.
If I haven't been to the gym for more than 2 days in a row, I'm just getting aware. I'm like aware of that now. I'm like, okay, I don't want that to be 3, because then 3 easily rolls into 4, and then I'm like, sure, the week is fucked now. I'll start next week, and then I'm like, okay, that's starting into a behavior pattern. Yeah. And then similarly with a positive thing, I'm like, okay, if I can just get through day 1 and 2 of this. I usually feel better, because I'm like, oh, jeez, I have 2 days behind me now.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do 3. And then
momentum.
You can build that momentum as well. But yeah, for me, habits I try and really distill down, because it's such a big area.
Yeah.
Do I have awareness around why I'm doing a certain thing? Which is most of it for me. And then how could I go about slowly unwinding that? Because I've tried the big things before in my life, and they rarely work. Almost never work. The big, massive changes. It's small. It's compounding, James.
It's compounding, Dan. It's compounding. It's always compounding.
Go on, give me your bit on habits.
An important thing that you said there is, like, what's your why? Like, why are you doing this habit, and what is the goal that you want to achieve? Because when you know what you're looking to achieve, things will just go a bit smoother. Like, you'll get rid of any bad behaviors. You'll start disciplining yourself towards what that goal is, and this will all impact on your habits, and your habits are just your behaviors, and then your behaviors develop your characteristics, and your characteristics develop the person that you become, and by becoming that person, you'll obviously achieve that goal. That's what I always say, like, whatever you want to achieve in life, become the person that does that.
We are what we repeatedly do.
We are what, as Aristotle once said, Dan, we are what, but there's a lovely quote in there, and it's like, if you basically, it's going to slip my mind now, or is it going to come back around to me.
It's gone. I can see it floating off there.
Like, if we want to change ourselves, we have to do it on a daily basis.
There's a quote from Will Durant, and this comes up a lot in like the sport context. It's been quoted at me a million times, I'd say. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit.
Yeah.
So when you asked me earlier on about being exceptional, I was like, that's an accumulation of behavior patterns to be exceptional, unless you are the exception, which to me is the Ronaldo Messi example. But yeah, excellence I always used to think of as this unobtainable thing, and then now reflecting on this quote, excellence is just an ability to repeat yourself over and over again. Not just repeat yourself, because it's not this idea of practice makes perfect. It's perfect practice makes perfect. Yeah. So doing the right thing, and then boiling it back again. What is the right thing, and what the type of person you want to be? And you touched on something important there as well. Again, the big take home from James Clear's book is not doing a thing; it's becoming the person who does a thing. So I don't go to the gym. I am somebody who cares about my fitness. Going to the gym is just one of my behaviors.
It's the identity.
Because I have an identity of someone who is into their fitness. So that identity piece is really important, because like, why do you want to be fit? And at my age, a lot of people are starting to say, because I want to be around with my kids, and I want to see my grandkids. And like, when you start getting into your mid-30s and 40s and 50s, that stuff becomes a lot more front of mind for you. And when you're a bit younger, it's like, I want to fucking tear down this mountain and take over the world, and that's all fine too. But having that really deep sense of what I'm trying to do, you become the person, and then the behaviors become a little bit easier because they're more aligned. If you don't, and this is the thing that really a lot of us struggle with, you get to January and you just fucking self-flagellate. I was a piece of shit last year, and this is what I was saying to you about the drink thing as well. Like, am I just giving up the drink because I know I'm supposed to do it? It's never going to work. I know I'm supposed to not drink. I know I'm supposed to not fucking smoke or scroll on my phone. Unless there's a deeper something there for you, it's going to be so hard to sustain
deeper why.
that. Yeah, it's going to be so hard to sustain that. Simon Sinek, start with why. I know we're just throwing out all these things, but these are all the people who understand this.
Yeah, I love it. Identity, habits, what's your why? You know, getting rid of what's taking you further away from your goals. It's very important, and it's good to be aware of, because like, we are what we repeatedly do, Dan.
We are repeatedly do. And again, just a practical one. I know some of my practical ones. Coffee, you asked me about coffee before. Completely stolen from, is it Chris Williamson or fucking Hamosi, one of these guys. Yeah. But I try in a 7-day block, at least don't drink coffee 3 of those 7 days. And sometimes it's day on, day off, day on, day off, day on, day off. But if I consciously have that in my head, I'm not letting the coffee become a habit, but I'm not like demonizing the coffee. Yeah. I like a cup of coffee. But if I look at a week, if I drink coffee every day for a week, I know the following week there could be one day where that's 2 coffees. Yeah. Or it could be a month where I've had coffee every day. Coffee is not bad, but do I want that to become a habit? Me, I don't want caffeine consumption become a habit. I want to use it when I want to use it and have it as a treat.
Is the substance controlling you, or are you controlling the substance?
Yeah.
That's the question I always ask, and obviously that it's empowering the way you take it day on, day off.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not day on, day off, but I look at a block of 7 days, and I want 3 of those days to not have caffeine. And if 1 week it does, once I'm aware of it, I was like, okay, well, I went out for a walk with James that morning. We got a coffee. It broke my 7 days, but that's not becoming the pattern. The next day, I don't have the coffee, and I try and get back on the pattern.
Great level of awareness. There's a title in it, Behave Yourself, it says, but it says your life comes down to this formula: you, choice, and in brackets has decision; behavior, which is action; habit, which is repeated action, plus compound, which is time, equals goals. So you, choice, behavior, habit, compound equals your goals. Decision, action, repeated action, and over time. The things accumulate then. They compound over time. So, and always he says be patient. Whatever you're looking to achieve, be patient with the process.
That's the hardest part, though.
Yeah, because you're not going to see results straight away.
I wrote that down at the top of my page here, actually, before we did this conversation. Why do we find all this stuff so hard? Because it's all lovely to listen to this podcast, and fair play if you've made it this far to listen to us, but it's all lovely, and a lot of the stuff you listen to podcasts is really empowering. You feel like, yeah, go fucking take over the world now. But why do we as humans find this so hard? We touched on one part. A lot of us don't have a really strong why attached to the change we want. But there's no instant payoff.
Yeah, we can't see the results straight away.
You can't see them straight away. And in today's world, everything is instant.
Instant gratification.
I ordered that fucking thing there like yesterday. It's here. And if it was another day, I'd be fuming. Everything is instant. And then you're telling me it's going to take me 27 months to lose 33 pounds.
We expect so much so fast, and I think it's a massive downfall having that expectation. And I think I said recently, maybe on another podcast recently, I think that's almost why divorce rate is so high nowadays, because we're expecting.
Well, we took a turn there.
Yeah, because like we expect so much so quickly, or it's just like there's too much expectation and this instant gratification, and like the world is almost too fast. And the world is just way too quick. You're expecting so much from people or products or even the Amazon order. It's like it's too instant. Gratification tends to come over the course of a wide span of time. Like, I had a friend of mine 5 years ago, he was completely out of shape, 110 kg. Darren was his name. Have had him on the podcast. He's in incredible nick now. He's in incredible shape. He's a fucking animal of a man. But, it took him so long to get there. He could have given up after a year because it wasn't going as well, or he wasn't where he wanted to be. But 4.5 years later, he's in incredible shape now, and he just looks the part. But the point being is, he wasn't getting any gratification at the beginning of it, but now 5 years later he is. And going back to the divorce rate thing, I just think it's everything's too quick. We're not like, think about relationships years ago. They used to like be devoted to one another. It was the span of time. There's a great deal of commitment. But now we're on Instagram, and fucking Larry over here has a yacht.
Fucking Larry.
Fucking Larry once again, and Brad's over here and he's doing his thing. And it's just like we're seeing way too much. We expect so much from our partner, and I just think it's a recipe for. So here's an interesting one, because we regularly say this. You're almost a decade younger than me, right? Yeah.
This is the world now. There's no changing that. Us,
and it's going to get faster.
Yeah. Us lamenting on a podcast isn't going to change the world.
No.
So how do we learn to live in that world? How do we learn to? This is the new way of relationships. I don't know. Did you meet your partner at the moment online? Yeah. So like that's how we do it now. So how do we, in the new world, try and help our fucking outdated hardware adapt? And it always, for me, comes back to, in the fast-paced world, our responsibility and duty, if we want to have the time and space to think about all this, is to give ourselves that little bit of breathing room, that little bit of space, to have some sort of practice. We can live in it. This world is incredible. I say it all the time. It's the only reason my business exists. I literally have a production studio that creates content that goes on the internet and do podcasts and all this kind of stuff. It's all fast-paced. It's all online and stuff like that. That wouldn't exist without the fast-paced world. Like what we're doing right now wouldn't exist. We probably wouldn't have met each other if that didn't exist. So that is the new world. So rather than, because a lot of these podcasts become, we should go back to how it used to be. That's never happening. How do we adapt without completely changing who we are and becoming these fast-paced, high neurotic stress type of people? How do we live in this world? And for me, it always comes back to a bit of space, bit of awareness, bit of reflection. It's the low-hanging fruit, which is really boring.
We have a choice.
We do have a choice.
We have a choice to become aware of what the world is and then decide our own actions from there.
Yeah. So in the relationship example you gave, you have a choice to slow it down.
Yeah.
And I don't mean slow it down as in like we'll do 10 dates or whatever like that. I mean literally take everything a bit slower, pay a little bit more attention, try and,
because I see it, especially guys my own age, It's like, you know, you're seeing someone for a while, and look, things don't work out sometimes. That's all well and good. That's fair. But like, just the rate of people going through relationships is so much quicker nowadays, and there's no time to really get to know someone, or, you know, it takes time, Dan. And I think everything, like we just mentioned, everything's so rushed. There's so much expectation because we've got online. We're seeing the whole world through our phone.
We're going back to choice there. We're going back to fucking the choice chapter.
Yeah.
The paradox of choice as well. You can have too much choice. But again, there is too much choice. That's a fact. Our responsibility is to pull back from that.
I think that's going to be a rare thing in the next couple of years, Dan, and especially over the course of time in our generation as well, because like we're only 10 years apart, is how people are devoted to one another. Because divorce rate's fucking crazy. I think over 70% of marriages get divorced, which is crazy. That's such a high number.
I don't have the latest stats.
Yeah, I don't either. But I'm taking that from the top of my head. But it's just like there is too much choice, and we need to adapt to the fast pace of living.
Yeah, choice is a good thing.
Yeah,
but again,
I don't know how we got back to choice because we just covered chapter 2, which was habits.
Yeah.
But anyway, listen, we're going to move on.
But they're all linked. That's the point.
They're all linked. Momentum, Dan.
One of my favorite chapters.
Probably my favorite chapter.
Is it your favorite?
It definitely is my favorite chapter.
Okay.
Because, like I said, the previous podcast we done, I gave up alcohol. I feel like since then I've gained a lot of momentum in my life because I've no longer...
Because of the choice that you made.
Choice I made, yeah. I'm no longer getting hangovers or going on nights out or disrupting my sleep or missing training sessions or eating poorly. So all that has compounded over time to, you know, help me grow and develop and get to goals I have in my life much faster because of that as well. But I had never heard the word inertia. Before I met you, Dan, and there was definitely a podcast you done. I think it was behind the black curtain there in the Prymal studio, as some other guest was in here with you, and you mentioned the word inertia. I go, what the fuck is that word inertia, Dan? Didn't know what it was, but inertia means basically, maybe you can give a better definition.
Have you got the definition there, have you?
I don't have it in front of me, no.
I'm going to put up the actual definition because I'll fucking butcher it. You keep talking about
it. But basically, in this chapter 4, Momentum, I absolutely love it. He talks about Newton's law, and an object that is at rest will stay at rest, and an object in motion will keep on moving forward. And good kind of illustrations he gives or analogies is like a rocket ship taking off. At the beginning, Dan, it needs all this energy and combustion to get it off the ground. But as soon as it gets into space, it's flying. It's off to another planet. Same thing with like a steam engine, whether that's a train. It's slow at the beginning. It's arduous. It's hard to get going. You're trying to get the wheels turning, and it's difficult, and it's stiff, and and then you get moving, and then you get a bit looser, and then you're in a flow, and then you're flying. You're at 100 miles an hour. And the same thing goes for us in our own life. When we're trying to achieve a goal, or there might be something in the future we're looking to do, it's hard at the start. It's difficult, but it's not meant to be easy either, because then it's part of the process is maybe a bit of difficulty in there. But over time, you keep making the right choices, and you compound them habits up and up. Some stage, 5 years, 10 years down the line, you are absolutely flying. And it all came back to that momentum. Momentum. Yeah. Big Mo, as he calls it. Big Mo. But it's just getting things moving. What is inertia anyway? Did you find it?
I did, yeah. So the actual definition of inertia is a tendency to do nothing or to remain unchanged, or a property of matter by which it continues in its existing state of rest or uniform motion in a straight line unless that state is changed by an external force. Point being, with inertia, and the reason I like using the word is because it's a great way to be a little bit more compassionate around habit change and compound effect and realigning your life and all that kind of stuff. A lot of us are stuck in a state of inertia because we've built a life that has become pretty much unconscious. So we're just doing the things we do because they're the things we've always done. And in order to change that, there's friction, and it's very, very difficult. So I want to take the hard edge off this whole like change your life thing. Yeah. It's difficult. There's no doubt about it. It is difficult, and you need a huge amount of this. I like this idea of activation energy. You mentioned it there, getting the rocket off the ground, getting the merry-go-round going before you can get to that blissful state of momentum. And we look at people who seem to be flowing. We're like, fuck these guys. They must have had it so easy, but they didn't. They obviously overcame that sense of inertia as well. So when I think about momentum, I mentioned earlier on, this particular phase of my life is where I'm starting to actually feel a little bit of that momentum, and particularly in work. I'm starting to just have conversations that I'm like, whoa, okay, this happened because of this, and this happened because of that, and that happened because of this.
Dan, did you make the right choice 4 years ago?
Maybe, and some of this is luck as well. Some of it can be luck, but when you feel that sense of momentum, if you have awareness around it, it starts to reinforce
the choices,
the positive choices and patterns and habits for you. And that's when it gets really powerful. It's when you can look back and have that feeling of evidence, that sense of Oh,
I made the right choice.
I see now. When you get a little taster for that, when you just get that little taster, it really helps make this process a little bit easier. So again, it's this idea of the higher up you go, it's not that it gets easier. It gets much more difficult if you're at a higher level in sport or in business or in whatever it is. It's actually much more difficult up there, but you have built this whole set of skills and this momentum behind you that make you just better at actioning. You're more effective. You have a stronger sense of why you're doing it.
Yeah.
So up there, it actually, when you have that sense of momentum, again, I don't want to say it's easier. It's not easier, but you have
things are moving a bit easier.
There's the different force behind you.
Force.
Yeah, but let's go back to how do we get there? You have to break the sense of inertia. And for me, it's all that Simon Sinek thing. It's start with why. It's not start with get your, like, action is one way of doing it. When you're stuck in a rut, taking action is good. But most people have done it. Most people have taken action. They've gone for the first run. They've given up the first cigarette, but they keep coming back. They can't develop that momentum. So it's getting started. They've managed to do it a couple of times. Then they fall off the wagon, and then that reinforces the story for them that maybe that's just not for me. I'm not a fit person. Maybe this is just me for the rest of my life. But I think it's like that meme that you see, the visual, you see the cartoon of the guy digging with the pickaxe.
Oh, I love that, yeah.
And he's literally one more swing of the pickaxe away from the big diamond, and he's turning back and going the other way. That's momentum for me. And I'm only now through fucking pig stubbornness with this business. Not business acumen or experience or masterful strokes or good decisions necessarily, like big good decisions. Just through constantly doing those really simple basic things, I'm now like, oh, bit of momentum, Jesus Christ. And I was like, what was the one thing I did? It wasn't one thing, it was a series of small things. And
that's a great example, Dan, of your own business. How long are you in business now?
4 years and a bit.
4.5
years maybe, yeah.
And this is obviously, as everyone knows, the world's greatest podcast
studio. The world's greatest podcast studio.
But also with that, Dan, there is a level of, and I can feel the energy of this studio and knowing you and what you tell me of what's going on in the business as well. There is something that is big coming. Because you, over the 4.5 years, have made correct decision after correct decision after correct decision. You've been disciplined, but them small actions consistently over time, they compound into something huge, Dan.
Is that called?
The compound effect.
The compound effect.
Sorry,
let me make that example even more specific again, because again, I don't like stuff that's abstract. Oh, momentum, I can feel that from small decisions. One thing I can now look back and say that's where a lot of this came from is I made a decision a long time ago, but specifically in my business, that every interaction I would have with somebody in my business, I would do my best to be the positive force in that interaction.
Nice, I love that.
So when people come in to me in the studio, I've consciously said, I'm going to be positive today. I'm going to be positive. Even if I'm feeling shit, I'm like, I am going to be positive today. Outside of every other decision I've made about health and fitness and business and money and all that kind of stuff, that is now the momentum I'm feeling. Because people come in and they're like, oh, such and such has spoken so highly of you, or they'll reach out and say, oh, I'm really looking forward to working with you. They don't mention anything about the marketing or the service or the studio. They talk about me and the positivity, and they want to be a part of that. I'm like, that's the compound effect. That's the momentum I'm feeling. It's people. It's how I'm interacting with them.
And it's reinforcing, because everyone comes in here and says that to you, then you're going to be more likely
like,
that.
Oh God, that's working. I'll continue being positive.
Continue doing that.
And now it's a little bit easier for me because I've been doing it for so long. So that's kind of a practical.
Quite interesting, and it touches about momentum, but it works both ways. Like, we're touching a very positive sense here, but it can also work in a negative sense. Just say, for example, like you mentioned there, people come into the studio. If you didn't have that positive attitude or that positive expectancy or that positive energy in you, and you were a bit more negative, then you're going to be greeted with that. Like, it goes in a spiral. The same way it spirals upwards in a positive sense, it can also spiral downwards in a negative sense. I think there was an example he gives in this chapter, or maybe it was an earlier chapter, but, you know, anyone's typical evening, they might sit down on the couch, they might, you know, watch Netflix, and then they're up late and they're like, I'll have a bag of crisps, and then they're meant to prepare a presentation for work in the morning, but they don't do that, and then the following morning they wake up and they're a bit late and they present it, but they don't get the client, and it just has a knock-on effect. That's momentum there that went against that person. But like we kind of touched on, a great example is your business. It's like 4.5 years of that momentum, and the wheels are turning. It's been difficult for a while now.
So grindy, man. It's still really grindy now.
But now it's the train's starting to move at 5 miles an hour, and then it's going to build to 10 and 20, and then 20 to 40 and 40 to 80, and things get faster and faster, and things get bigger and bigger. But because you were disciplined, had that positive outlook on it, and made the right choice time and time again, that it's compounded into something that's massive. And the important thing is that you've done it over time. It wasn't no stop start. You didn't get it going and then it pushed back. I'm sure it did push back in some forms.
Oh, loads of pushback.
But you stayed consistent with it, and you're going to reap the rewards of what it will turn into. And keep on turning into it, keep on evolving and getting better and better.
Yeah, that's just a small example, and but like the business isn't massive or anything like that at the moment. But all I'm stating here is I can now feel that sense of momentum. It's something I can it's like a little hand on your back saying keep going, keep going. Great quote from Bill Belichick, famous NFL coach. It's not all about talent. It's quite similar to the last one actually. It's about dependability, consistency, and being able to improve. I have always thought this. People always ask me, like, playing football and sport and stuff like that, like, who are the players that you'd love? And yeah, we'd all love Ronaldo or something like that, but who I really love are the people who just show up all the time. You can depend on them. You can almost predict how they're going to perform in a session, give or take a bad session here or there, whatever like that. You can almost predict how they're going to be in a football game. And I've always tried to hold that as my standard. I was never particularly talented in any element of the sport, but I always knew I would give this level. This is what I was going to do. This is how physical I was going to be. This is how many blocks I was going to try and make. You fall off a lot, but it meant that my performances were always quite consistent. Even when they weren't great, they were quite consistent. I didn't vary a lot, and they're the type of people I always loved playing with as well. And I love being on the team because they're dependable and consistent.
The work rate, yeah.
And you can build something off the back of that. So a person who's not really consistent or who fluctuates wildly or is not dependable, you can't really build any. You can't build a good relationship off the back of that. You can't build anything off the back of that. So yeah, for me, that's a great way of looking at building momentum, because you have a group of people like that in a sports team, as Bill was saying here. That's a great platform to build off, and you can build momentum with those people. And even if you've got 15 people who are not the top 10% in the world, if they're all at 80% constantly, you can get them to 85%, then 86%, then 87%. And as we said at the very start of this, a huge amount of people you come up against, whether it's in sport or life or whatever, that are not going to be there. So you have an advantage, and that's momentum. I think that
discipline is so element there, and all the characteristics you're outlining there is of a disciplined individual.
Yeah, but what is discipline? It's this. It's making good choices. It's not just a characteristic. Discipline is a description of all of these choices we make.
It's alive.
Exactly. It's fluid. Yeah.
Into it. You'd rather be consistently good than occasionally great. So consistently, like that consistency of showing up time after time again, it just gets the wheels of the merry-go-round going a bit faster, a bit faster, a bit faster, and then you're fucking flying.
Ask Sean Canan. We talk about this all the time. I love him repeating this over and over and over and over and over again. He talks about training for things like ultras and big hard events and all that kind of thing. And most people who come in, he has to tell them to train at a lower level more consistently. 80 to 85% of their training needs to be slow and steady and consistent, and not trying to flog themselves once or twice a week doing a mental session. Slow, steady and consistent. You know from being in the gym, it's not about every session being the most insane animal session you've ever done. It's about showing up to every session, and every session being a good session. Not the best session you've ever done in your life, and just doing that consistently for a long period of time, and you see the results, but you don't get them immediately. So.
Consistency compounds as well.
And you feel the momentum.
You do indeed. Just to wrap up the key takeaways from this brilliant chapter, which is on momentum. Momentum makes success easier. Once you start, keep on going. Small, consistent actions are the key to long-term progress. Discipline is required at first, but momentum takes over once the habit forms. That's a great one. Stopping and restarting kills momentum. Stay consistent. And lastly, avoid negative momentum. Bad habits can snowball just like good ones. Perfect. Right, we'll move on. Chapter 5. We're going to wrap this up very soon, Dan. But influences. I absolutely love this.
Yeah, very good.
Like, we've probably heard it before. You're an average of 5 people. You know, whatever environment you're in, you'll become. Was there anything that kind of stuck out in your own mind in regards to this chapter? Or we have something ready.
Drink dirty water.
I love that.
Yeah.
Don't drink dirty water.
For me nowadays, the 5 people rule is slightly different because how we connect with people is different. So I would say the average person, this is a complete hypothesis now, but the average person nowadays is more influenced by the people that they follow on social media than they are by the people that they're around. Because I think a lot of our human connection has in person, not that it's disappeared, but it has less of an impact on our lives than what we're consuming. So consumption is important for me. We all know about the people you surround yourself with. If you're in a bad environment, people-wise, they're going to drag you down with them. And he talks about doing an audit of the people in your life and not necessarily being cutthroat about this, but decide for yourself who raises me up and who I don't want to be surrounded about. We've all heard that one before. But don't drink dirty water. Everything you consume impacts the type of person that
whether
you are.
Whether it's food or news or social media.
Exactly. So I have written down here, actively curate your information diet.
Ooh.
Curate everything that goes in. I've actually started to do this consciously recently, and I've disabled notifications for everything. Someone commented on a YouTube video there from me in my latest podcast with Ian, saying something like, "Why are you videoing yourself? No one knows who you are and no one cares." And I'm like, if even allowing that notification come in from YouTube saying if you comment on your video, that's not fucking good for me. I don't know who this clown is, like whatever. I'm class, so fuck this guy.
Yeah.
But even stuff like that, part of my brain goes, well, you more of this. You need to know this is how you orientate yourself in the world. Maybe I am shit. Maybe, but I'm like, if I never saw that notification, it actually has a positive to my life.
Oh, Dan.
So just stopping all that coming in.
Say that again, because like the less notifications you get, the better.
No one else gives a shit about me.
The only thing on my own phone is just WhatsApp. And they're all people I enjoy being in contact with.
I'm the exact same. I have WhatsApp and I have the Triple Flame app, which was a recommendation from Brian, which reminds me when to do a little meditation and give me a quote or whatever. But other than that, I don't have notifications on the phone.
And that's it.
Yeah, that's literally it, because everything I allow in has an impact on my mood.
Because it's stealing your attention as well.
It's taking my attention. And what I noticed was most of the stuff I was allowing in left me in a worse mood. Yeah. So we justify all of this by saying, I need to know when an email comes in. As soon as you do it, you do it regularly with Instagram. As soon as you remove that thing from your life, A, you immediately feel better, and B, nothing negative happens.
Yeah.
Nothing.
I'll occasionally, and I'll actually do it every day, is delete it and re-download it. Because I have a choice. I have a choice.
You have a choice.
Got to make a choice then. But I have a choice to like, am I going to become distracted now for a few minutes, or am I just going to maybe get back to what's more important? Yeah. And direct my attention away from just mindlessly scrolling.
100%.
Because that is killing so many people.
The food that you eat, the people you surround yourself with, the TV shows you watch, the information you consume, every single one of those things has an impact on who you are. Yeah. Look at your environment, look at what you're consuming, and look at who you're surrounded by. Do a little audit. That's one thing I do think we should do. Yeah. Do an audit of your environment. And every time you do something, ask yourself afterwards, do I feel better or do I feel worse? If you feel worse, just fucking get rid of it. Yeah. Most of it's not necessary, and we're just telling ourselves it is.
That's so true.
Don't drink dirty water.
Yeah, I love that. And he said the 3 types of influences, like you just kind of outlined there. Input, which is what you consume, whether that's food and social media.
News
as well. Oh, that's the worst. Associations, people you surround yourself with, are they bringing you up or are they dragging you down? There's another thing he touched on in here. A friend of his described it as anchors or engines. Are you around people that drag you down being the anchor? Do they, negative news, maybe they don't look after themselves, they've got bad habits, they're drinking too much, they're not hitting the gym? Or do you have engines when you're around these people? Are they bringing you alive? Are they lighting you up? Are they inspiring you? Anytime you meet each other, are they talking about new ideas, great books that they're reading, great podcasts they might have had or listened to? And that's the importance of it. And
I ordered this specifically for this moment in the podcast.
Oh my God.
So as well as don't drink dirty water, drink clean water. This is a Brita water filter.
Water filter. Dan has got this for his new coffee setup here in the Prymal studio.
So just as a nicer consumption for people in the studio, and obviously to make nicer cheese and coffee for people. I'm after kicking your camera. I don't know what's happening there. But same on the negative, positive, yin and yang. Yeah. A lot of us think about what we shouldn't consume. Also think about what you should consume. Yeah. What lifts you up? Who inspires you?
Motivates you.
Identify the things that you find inspirational and motivating. Surround yourself with the people who are doing what you want to do or can bring you forward or make you feel good. So make the positive choice and avoid the negative choices. Same theme throughout all of these. But I think that potentially has, if you can do that and nothing else, that could potentially have the biggest impact, I think, out of all of these things.
Yeah. Eleanor Roosevelt has a great quote, and she says, great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, and small minds discuss people. I like that whole gossipy, small-mindedness. Average minds are maybe talking about world events such as the news. That's bullshit as well. Great minds, Dan, are discussing ideas. What are we doing right now? We're discussing the compound effect, which I absolutely love. But yeah, that dirty
great
water.
Minds think alike. Fools seldom differ.
Yeah, as I say, flush out with the dirty water one. Flush out the negative, which is the dirty water in the glass, with positive, inspirational, and supportive ideas, which will clean out your glass and have it looking nice and well. Power of association. Kind of touch on that. You are the average of 5 people that you follow or maybe hang around with as well. Upgrade your environment for success. He talked about that. He went to a different part of, I think it was San Francisco, where he ended up finding his dream house, but he started associating with people that would uplift him. Very important. Very, very important. And that is basically it, Dan. I think we've covered that one pretty well. Anything else to mention there?
No. I think that again, I'll say it again, if there's no other takeaway from this podcast, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Do a little audit, figure out some of the some of the things that could have a positive influence in your life, be it food, social media, people, etc.
Yeah.
And where are those situations, environments that are making you feel negative, and eliminate those.
He touched on another element of influences. He had Brian Tracy, someone I love, writes great books, wrote Eat the Frog or Eat That Frog. And he touched about your car, turning your car, because we travel so much, everyone travels so much, and you probably listen to the majority of podcasts in your car, turn that into a vehicle of learning. So, and like, that's the whole thing. That's a positive influence. If you're listening to podcasts or audiobooks, or even listening to the Compound Effect, which we've done, that's a look, we're getting invigorated by this conversation as well, because we're learning more about ourselves. So that's another key takeaway. But anyway, the key takeaways from chapter 5 are: control your influences, what you consume, who you associate with, and your environment all impact your success. You are the average of the 5 people. We mentioned that before. Negative inputs lead to negative thinking, and positive inputs lead to success. Make small changes to your environment to make success easier. You know what's so funny about this, then, is like, with the choices, with the habits, with the momentum, with the influences now, there's so much crossover. Like, I think we probably mentioned a lot of these concepts over and over again, but we need to keep on repeating them, because although we've heard them before, we just need to keep on hearing this information again.
I think every single thing we've said in this podcast, most of your listeners will have heard before. None of this is new information.
It's good to refresh the mind.
Exactly. And I think the context is helpful. Like, maybe listening to us, maybe my experience or your experience, someone can relate to that. Maybe they'll be thinking, who's too fucking easy, whatever. Yeah. Maybe they'll think, why are you filming yourself? Nobody cares. But for me, it's really helpful to do this with you, because we read the book, we listened to the book, now we're discussing the book. For me, like, that's a positive choice that you made and I made, and I think something will come from it, and we'll just continue to do this, and it'll compound. It'll
compound over time. Who knows what that turns into over time? But the last one here, chapter 6, is acceleration. So pushing past your limits for extraordinary results, and the power of going the extra mile. So just doing that bit more. Was there anything, Dan, that stood out?
I'm going to give you my 60-second take, because I am going to have to run and jump into my car after this take. So apologies for that, but I'll give you my 60-second take, which is kind of epitomised by a quote from the great Bruce Lee.
Lovely.
There are no limits, there are only plateaus, and you must not stay there. Nice. This idea of acceleration is when you push past your limits. Most of the limits I've experienced in my entire life are self-inflicted. Yeah. When I've managed to push through a boundary or a limit in my own head, it's completely opened up an entire new world for me. The only way I've been able to do that is by practicing all of the other steps. Getting to a point where I feel, this is, like I mentioned the financial thing earlier on, and asking people for money in the business. There was a complete glass ceiling on me based on my own beliefs and my own environment and stuff like that. As soon as I was able to transcend that slightly, the entire thing opened up for me. It's like, oh my God, what was I even doing before? Yeah. Then there's a new limit set somewhere. There's a new sense of fear and a new sense of challenge, because this is the unknown. But this idea of there are no limits to what I can do, only plateaus. And in my opinion, most of those are self-inflicted. So if I can, he talks about his dad, and his dad pushed him and all that kind of stuff. And that's powerful. It obviously had an impact on him. Yeah. But I don't think it needs to be an external flagellation and David Goggins shouting at you. I think if we can start to understand, why do I want to do this? And if we can identify, again, those fear triggers for us, where in my life am I living through fear, we'll start to see that a lot of these limitations we have, how much money can I make in my life from my job? What can I do? Where's my sense of purpose? What do I deserve in a relationship? I think most of that is self-inflicted. And when we recognize that, we can see the plateau, and we can start to push through the plateau. And we'll do that simply by doing the same thing over and over again.
Beautifully said that. Beautifully said. Just to round it up, chapter 6, takeaways. The real breakthrough comes when you push harder, not when you coast. Very important. Going the extra mile separates the average from the extraordinary.
I'll add a quote to what you just said there, because it links in really nicely. Segue. Seth Godin, who is an author, he's a marketer, etc., etc. The extra mile is a vast, unpopulated wasteland.
Yeah.
Because no one
wants to be there.
Yeah, no one wants to be there. And everybody has the potential to be there.
And that's what sets you up for great success. If you can just do what you know the other person won't do, you're gonna beat them. Great example from this, just to wrap it up, Dan, is Michael Phelps. He trained religiously for 12 years, 365 days a year.
I think he missed a session. Did he have it here?
Didn't miss one session. I think his coach let him off 15 minutes early to go to some high school dance at one stage. And that was it. Yeah. That's exceptional, Dan. And
5 straight years, he didn't miss a single day.
The most decorated.
Yeah.
Dedicated. Jesus, what's that word?
Dedicated.
Dedicated.
Dedicated and decorated.
And decorated. Gold medalist of all time.
Yeah.
I think he won 23 Olympic medals, and 18 of them. 18, Dan, were gold.
How did he do that, James?
Exceptional. compound effect. We'll leave it there. Dan the man, thank you so much. Pleasure as always.
Jamesy, thank you so much. Sorry to wrap this up really quickly, but really enjoyed the book and really enjoyed the recommendation, and also really enjoyed for the I won't read it, but really enjoyed the lovely note that James wrote for me in the back of the book.
Lovely little sentiment.
Yeah,
ending on a wholesome note. Everyone, take it easy. Peace. And all the best.
Don't drink dirty water.
Sorry,
Jamesy.
Good.
I have to run.
No, it's perfect, Dan. It's perfect.